Hey, welcome to one of the fastest growing sports YouTube channels out there, Gold and Blue, dude. And the Big 12 is thinking about expanding. Let's go. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's me again, Gold and Blue, dude. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. I do college football videos every single day. Conference realignment has ruled the news the past couple of months. Texas and Oklahoma are off to the SEC. We hear that West Virginia could be going to the ACC. Kansas and Iowa State to the Big Ten. Oklahoma State and Kansas State to the Pac-12. TCU, Texas Tech, and Baylor could head off to the AAC. Everybody's going to say what they need to say at the moment. The Pac-12 said that they're not expanding. Well, if that's what they needed to say, that's what they were going to say. That's what happened. Well, now they're switching it again. They're saying the Big 12 is pursuing expansion. They've come up with an expansion committee consisting of 4 people. That's not a committee. That's a barbershop quartet. Come on, guys. That's not even a committee. To me, this just sounds like a last gasp for the Big 12 to stay alive, looking to expand. Okay, here's the teams that they're looking into. They're definitely 100% pursuing BYU seriously. BYU does have a great fan base all over the nation. Remember, the Mormon faith ties people into BYU. Even if you're not from Utah, if you're a part of the Mormon faith, more than likely you're a BYU fan. Lavelle Edwards Stadium, their football stadium, holds 63,725, almost 64,000. With Texas and Oklahoma gone, it would be one of the biggest stadiums in the Big 12. And BYU would bring in revenue, so that would be a smart choice. But after that, well, they're saying that the Big 12 can go after UCF, Cincinnati, Boise State, and Houston. On paper, that sounds like decent choices, but let's look at the numbers. First up, UCF. Now, UCF does have the biggest on-campus student body in the nation, and they are in Orlando, so they have the potential to bring in revenue. The Bounce House, their stadium, holds 45,301. That's a small stadium. That doesn't really move the needle much. The only reason you would bring in UCF is the potential, and I'll give UCF that. They have great potential. Now, Cincinnati. Cincinnati does have experience in the power conference when they were in the Big East. They are good in football at the moment, and they have a historic basketball program. Nippert Stadium, their football stadium, holds 40,000. That's the problem. Cincinnati would not bring in revenue. I know Cincinnati is located in, well, Cincinnati, and that's a big city, but Cincinnati does not own that TV market. Ohio State owns the entire state of Ohio, including most of Cincinnati. They just wouldn't bring a lot to the table. Boise State. Now, Boise State is the most successful Group of 5 team. Their football stadium, Albertson Stadium, holds 36,387. Another really small stadium. What does Boise State really do for the Big 12? If you were going to bring in Boise State, you should have done it in 2011, because all these names that you're listing have great potential. The Big 12 needs some great names now. They don't need potential. They need names that'll move the needle right now. And finally, Houston. Houston does have a major TV market, and they just opened a brand new stadium, TDECU Stadium, and it holds 40,000. Even all of these teams combined doesn't move the needle all that much. BYU is definitely the best team out of that bunch as far as bringing in revenue, a great fan base, a big stadium. It could slightly move the needle for the Big 12, but the rest of these teams, it just doesn't. And this is no disrespect to those teams. You guys are actually having success right now. But as far as actually bringing money and eyeballs to the Big 12, you don't do much. Small fan bases, small TV markets, are going to bring in a lot of revenue. Now, if you would have told me back in 2011 that you were expanding with these teams, I would have said that's not a bad idea, because they didn't need amazing names at the moment. They just needed to add. And then you would have had 10 years to develop their potential. The Big 12 does not have 10 years to play with now. It's do or die right now. This will not help the Big 12. I mean, it might help the Big 12 stay a conference, but that's about it. You're not going to be a Power 5 conference with adding these teams. A lot of West Virginia fans are scared that this is going to keep West Virginia in the Big 12. The only upside for West Virginia staying in the Big 12 is they would be the best remaining program in the Big 12. That's not good enough. It's time to move on to the ACC. Don't settle for being the best of slightly good teams. Go play the teams that you're supposed to play in the ACC, and that's exactly what West Virginia is doing. Just for the sake of argument, here's what the Big 12 would look like. First of all, adding 5 teams, you would actually need another team. Say like a Memphis to make the divisions equal. So in the Big 12 East, you'd have West Virginia, UCF, Cincinnati, Iowa State, Kansas State, and Memphis. In the Big 12 West, You'd have Oklahoma State, Baylor, TCU, Texas Tech, Houston, Boise State, and BYU. Doesn't look horrific, but that still just doesn't look like a Power 5 conference to me. There's no powerhouse names in that conversation right there. Look, I wish nothing but the best for the Big 12 if it does indeed stay a conference. I'm just saying the days as a power conference are over for the Big 12. And don't forget, ESPN and Disney are partners, and UCF is in Orlando. And we all know by now that ESPN, for whatever reason, does not want the Big 12 to exist. So they're definitely not going to allow them to come and get UCF. And they would probably think that it's in their best interest that the AAC stays intact as a whole. I'm just saying. They have money that'll talk as well. That's all I got for you for this show. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on my next show.